Welcome back to another exciting episode of Enthusiastically Spiritual. I'm your host, Teresa. So, this lifetime, I've been a body worker and a healer, and I absolutely honor the important connection within the physical body, especially as part of the team with the spiritual and the mental bodies. So, today I'm honored to have on a guest who's going to share about the importance of healing the physical body. So, Dr. Jess Bell is an osteopathic physician and an energy healer. She's the founder of Energetic Osteopathy, which is a powerful modality that bridges traditional osteopathic treatment and energy medicine. With over 20 years of hands on experience, Dr. Jess sees into the body with great clarity. This inner sight allows for the transformational release of even the most difficult to locate energetic densities out of the physical body, returning the body to health and wholeness. It is essential that we recover the often forgotten truth that healing comes from within. And it is Dr. Jess's greatest intention to offer this healing and guidance with easy to apply information, treatment, and self-healing practices. Welcome, Dr. Jess.
Oh, thank you, Teresa. It is such an honor to be on your show.
You know, we need some healing. We need some self-healing, right? This world, let's do it, Dr. Jess.
It is time, Teresa. We are just ready to go here. All of the healers are lining up. Our arms are outstretched and we're just ready, really, truly poised.
Without a doubt. And I'm filled with chills.
Yeah.
You say that because, you know, there's so much going on right now on the planet, energetically, physically, and all the realms. And so we are getting ready because this shift that's happening in the last year and a half, 2 years, it's on. You know, I mean, we really do need to be present and be ready to work with the people when they're in that space of I'm ready to heal. I've got things going on and help me.
Absolutely. I have chills throughout my whole body just hearing that, because it is a call. You know, we're all called, those of us that are here, to be on that front line of service and of healing. Those are, you know, it's so timely now. I really feel that we have all been serving and training our entire lives for pretty much what's happening right now.
Or lifetimes.
That too.
I think, girl, it took us a long time. We've been doing lifetime after lifetime, putting it all together, going, okay, this 2021, 2022, we're just going to get going. And yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Absolutely. Yes, it is.
Well, you do a lot with healing. So tell me a little bit about your story of how did you come into being an osteopathic doctor and your healing journey?
Yeah, I'll try to keep it brief, but it is a long journey. I'm the very abridged version is that I came in here, like you said just a moment ago. I've been a healer lifetime after lifetime, a mystic, a medicine woman. You know, that was really clear because when I was 4 years old, I just started saying out loud to whomever would listen, I want to be a doctor. I didn't even really know what that meant, but it was the path that I started when I was, you know, the moment I could really speak those words. And that carried me all the way through until right after college, I started looking around at the medical community that I was seeing, the MD world. And I realized that wasn't really the way. You know, the doctors that I was speaking to at the time, right after college, and I hadn't wavered, not even for a moment, on my path. I mean, there was not even a day when I had not that focus of wanting to pursue that career as a doctor until I actually started talking to doctors. And they were not happy people. And they were actually, most of the doctors I spoke with at that time were trying to warn me not to go into medicine and to do pretty much anything but going into medicine. So I veered off for a couple of years, and it was a rough couple of years. You know, I looked around and I tried different things, and I wasn't on my path anymore. And it was all part of the path to kind of fall off of the path. But my path has just been such a magnetic draw that even that 3-year blip where I wasn't on it, I mean, I didn't even know how to walk at that point. You know, I was pretty disastrous. I was an early 20%, 20 something. And I didn't know up from down until the day, literally that one fated day, I was having dinner with friends and they started talking about an osteopathic medical school that was in the local proximity to where I was having dinner, which I'd never heard of before. I didn't know anything about this osteopathic path until I did. And then it was like, you know, okay, here we go, game on. And I started doing the research and my body just lit up with, that's it, that's where I'm going. So I went just full throttle into osteopathic medical school and I became what's called a physiatrist or a pain management specialist, I was trained to put my hands on patients, but I wasn't trained spiritually. I was trained mechanically. And so it lost the magic. Osteopathy in medical school as it's taught right now. And for anyone listening who doesn't know the difference between an MD and a DO, it's exactly the same. So MDs and DOs graduate from medical school as fully licensed medical professionals, but osteopathic doctors learn an integrated hands-on treatment approach that really starts day one of medical school. So where we are brought into a deeper knowing that the body has self-healing capacities. So that's interwoven into the osteopathic curriculum of medical school. But as sad as it is, it's really not emphasized that these are indwelling, beautiful, majestic, spiritual, divine, intelligent healing forces that run through us. We don't get to learn that until the osteopathic student actually goes outside of medical school to have additional coursework to know that information. So that wasn't something that took me right away. So I went into this traditional pain management path, and I quickly recognized that the pain that I was treating wasn't to be treated by a pharmaceutical agent. It wasn't to be treated by an injection. It wasn't to be treated by surgery, because my patients had failed all of those things. And when they came to me and said, I don't know what else to do, I'm still in pain here, and I'm the pain management specialist, I looked at them and I mean, oh my goodness, right? So that's when my hands started to really tingle. And I thought, inspired thinking, I have another thing. There's another thing, right, that I'm here to offer. So that's when I really started to wake up, because I couldn't let my patients suffer, because I was suffering watching them suffer. And that's a whole different story. I was actually also in a very similar situation as they were, just really suffering with some of my old childhood traumas, because that's really all this is. It's the emotional piece, as you said, right, where the pain comes from bottled emotional energy. So I learned that it was time for me to do some of my own healing. So I went into a deep, dark depression, and I stepped away from medicine, because all of those years of medical training, and I wasn't given anything really to offer them, until I was. So through my own spiritual explorations and self-healing, I connected to a source that was unbelievable, source energy. And that's when I was inspired to go into a different training program, which was called neuromusculoskeletal medicine. Basically, an osteopathic doctor can get specialized training to learn how to use their hands spiritually and energetically, only it's never discussed that way. So I went into this year of intensive training where I just put my hands on people all day long. And right after that year, I opened my own practice, and that was in 2012. And so for the past 8 years, up until 2020, I offered patient after patient after patient a hands-on biodynamic osteopathic treatment approach, which basically means that I was trained and I learned to listen to the indwelling rhythms inside the bodies of the patients that I was working with. So I didn't know it at the time, but all this time I've been listening to and feeling the energies inside of people. And last year, I chose to move my practice into my house at the very start of the pandemic. And I closed my practice very shortly. I didn't do it knowingly. I mean, I saw patients in my house for 6 weeks. Yep, I was guided. And so after 6 weeks, I had to close my house and my practice. And that was when the transition came, where I started moving into working exclusively over Zoom. And I took all of the training that I'd received and all the experience that I had over the years of feeling people with my hands on their skin. All I had to do was take my hands off their skin, and actually the world that I was able to dive into then, because I was no longer interfering with their physicality, was more magical and powerful. And I was able to access even more of the energetic realms when I wasn't actually putting my hands on their physical body. So that's when energetic osteopathy came into my life. And I've been offering it in various ways ever since.
Wow. That is amazing. I'm loving it. So one thing that comes to mind as you're telling your story is I went to massage therapy school, and when I went to massage therapy school, they didn't talk about the energetic body. I mean, it like was totally not, it's like, and then I was having all these incredible experiences, and some very traumatic, like, feeling energies of people's bodies. And I remember one time, like dropping the whole thing, running out the door because I didn't know what I was feeling.
Yes.
So I totally get what you're saying. Like, it's this blend that, it goes together, right? It's like, I mean, you have to understand the energetic body and how it goes together with the physical body.
It feeds the physical body.
Mhm.
And so to
Right.
omit that, right, that's all that we are. So it's
Mhm.
unbelievable. I, for years, Teresa, had these questions I couldn't answer from patients. Like, why
Right.
did this happen? That's the main question. Why
Mm.
did this, right? What did I do wrong? I mean, we're all wanting to know, like, why am I in pain? And why is the pain coming back? And what can I do to prevent the pain? And as a pain management specialist, right, with lots of experience and training, I couldn't answer the question. I could
Mm.
make up an answer that I was trained to offer, and I knew it wasn't the full truth. And so it
Right.
was haunting me. And the moment that I started to step into the energies, I realized, wait a minute here. Why weren't we taught this stuff? Why weren't
Mhm.
we taught that it's the energy that moves into the physical body, that when energy doesn't move, it actually causes pain? And that the
Right.
only way for us to truly move to the root of pain is to really connect back into the source energy that comes into our bodies. It goes from the inside out, not the outside in. So medicine is
Right.
absolutely inverse. It is the inverse healing experience. And we've all been trained, all of us, all doctors,
Right.
all healers. I mean, that's been omitted.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
it's because we can't feel it, most of us at the beginning. We can't see it, we can't touch it. And so we're taught with the tangible, but that's actually the beginning of our training, right? And if you're
Right.
fortunate to be open to the possibilities that anything is possible, we all get touched by it and wonder, what is this that I'm touching? And so now is time. We talked about at the very beginning that it's really time for the healers. We're lining up. This is the energetic era. This is the vibrational era where we are, more of us actually are now touching and feeling. I feel energy now. I hear energy. I see energy.
Mhm.
And so, my gifts have really come online over these past few years, way more so over this past year and a half. Now I
Right.
channel constantly. I'm channeling right now. The information
Mhm.
just flows, and we all have access to that information, but we just don't yet really know it, or some of us do, and we don't know how to actually deepen those super sensory abilities, which are our innate, inherent,
Right.
indwelling gifts.
Without a doubt. And
Right.
I know, so all that we've been going through with the pandemic and, obviously a little before that, and we're going to be going with it for probably well, I mean, I believe that the whole time we're here, we're in constant change. So it just depends on what does it look like, right? What are we going through? What disaster, what illness, whatever. And so I want to really talk about holding things in your body, because this is a
Yes.
big component to self
Yes.
healing and tapping into that aspect of, I'm holding all this in my body. And I know during the pandemic, it's like, for myself, I'm very sensitive, and I wake up some days and I'm feeling a lot more than other days. And I'm like, boy, and I know a lot of people are feeling things, but they just don't know how to connect with what they're feeling and what's being held in their bodies.
Yep. Gosh, that is such an important concept to start to talk about, because once we wake up to the idea and the knowing that we're energy, that we're made of energy,
Right.
and that all that energy that we're made up of is really compressed and sometimes compartmentalized energy. When we move in our lives and we have some kind of a traumatic event, which we all do, we have multiple traumatic events.
Mhm.
Childhood is one continuous traumatic event.
Birth.
And right. And so
Right.
we are not equipped.
Mhm.
Our systems are not yet sophisticated to process and digest that energy. And so what happens is we hold it. It gets held
Right.
within our bodies. It creates a framework or a structure or a foundation of separation, of compartmentalization of these energy holdings inside of our body. And so
Mhm.
we live our lives with all of these energy holdings in our body. And actually, it changes the way we perceive what we're seeing in the outer world, because energy only wants to flow. It only wants a clear stream through the body. And so when we have all of this denser energy from unprocessed events of our lives or past lives, perhaps, it changes our view. And so as a result of that, we start to look out into the world as something that is a little bit, at times, not serving, right?
Right.
All of our lives, every single person, every event, everything that happens to us is truly serving us. But when we don't know how to access that energy, process that energy, and then release the information that that energy holds, we hold it. And so obviously when we look out into the world, and we learn how to do this when we're little kids, right? Our systems are actually designed to hold massive, massive amounts of energy. The tragedy here is that we are not talking about this, and that we're not trained to work with these energies inside of our bodies. And over our lifetimes, they accumulate. And when we look out into the world, that's highly polarized and confusing for some of us. Some of us kind of have a sense of what's going on here. I don't think anyone knows the ultimate truth, right? We have a sense that there's a huge awakening happening here, a huge, exciting thing that's happening under the rubble and under the chaos of what we're watching, the destruction of the systems that we're watching. There's a beautiful new world that's rising up under that. But while we're sitting in this place, of course, there's fear, there's anxiety, there's the unknowing of how it's all going to unfold. And if we're holding that chaotic, frenetic kind of energy in our body, it affects us. It creates all kinds of mood disturbances, all kinds of feelings and sensations. So energy only wants to flow. That is it. And so what I teach, actually, that one of the most important things that I teach is how to return back into the body. And as an osteopath, I actually see energy inside of people's bodies. Regardless, I do group healings, and I also do one-on-one healings, so I can find it for people, because sometimes it's a little bit challenging when we're starting this work and we're like, well, how do I even do this stuff? So that's who I am. That's what I do. I'm the guide to help you back into your body so that you can begin to learn how it feels. What does dense energy feel like? And what do we do with it? And actually, here's the cool thing about our bodies. It's actually stored within our tissues. So this isn't Reiki. This isn't just something where you're kind of, creating an auric field around your body, and you're creating a higher vibration, because that actually can oftentimes lead to a spiritual bypass of where dense energy is situated, specifically like in your right kidney, for example. So when we get really specific, and that's what I train people to do, when we move into each one of the energetic centers, which then feeds into each one of the neurologic plexi, bundles of nerves, which feeds into each one of the organ system, muscles, bones, all of it. We actually move the energy from source through the density within the body tissues, and then back out into the torus, which returns it to the earth. It's what we're all designed to do. And so what I offer people is a daily process. This is daily. Every single day, dense energy comes in, and all it wants to do is flow. We have to feel it, find it, breathe with it, and move it, liberate it. And then we're not sitting in a sea of collecting field of densities that cause stagnation. When stagnation sits in our body for too long, that's what creates this emotional disease. That's what creates physical pain and disease processes. So we start it from the bottom level up, and that way we're never stuck with this energy that we can't flow through us.
Right. Well, and what I like about what you're saying, Dr. Jess, is that you're making energy practical. Like, I like to make spirituality practical, because we're all empaths. And like you're saying, we're all a soul, we're all energy in a body that's holding that, energy down onto the planet. And so, bypassing that woo-woo aspect, or, I'm weird and wacky and I'm doing this energy. No, we're energy beings. You have to understand how it works, how it needs to move through your body. And so I like what you're saying a lot, because this is about making energy practical, and it's so important.
It's quantum science. And the thing is, that's all that it is, in medical school and in our education, if you're not a doctor, for example, we all receive Newtonian physics, for example. That's third dimensional energy. We know that energy cannot be created or destroyed. We know that there's a constant amount of energy, right? And so what we're not taught, however, is how this works with us in relation to the quantum field, which is what we're sitting in. We're all connected to the same source of energy. That's quantum energy. Time and space are actually collapsed upon ourselves, right? They're not linear. And so the reason these things aren't taught is because it's challenging for our rational, linear thinking mind to be able to get into that space, especially when we're growing up. Now, of course, how amazing would it be if this was actually taught from the level of kindergarten on, as it should be? We're not taught this. And so to circle back around and say, wait a minute, what do you mean? This doesn't make any sense, right? It doesn't make any sense that I'm made of energy, because I feel myself and I'm made of solid, dense tissue. The truth is not that. I always tell people, go down to what we're made of. We're made of photons. You know, if you take a tissue, you go down to the molecule, you go down to the cell, you go inside the cell, you get organelles, you get electrons and neutrons and protons. And then even further down, you get a photon. And a photon is so magical because it has intelligence. And so a photon is what you want it to be. We've done extensive experimentation. This is science. This is quantum science. Quantum scientists have studied the photon extensively, and what they found is if they think that the photon is going to measure as a particle, matter, it does. If they think that the photon is going to measure as a wave, as a package of light, it does. Okay, the photon is what you want it to be. Okay, we are made of these photons. So what we believe ourselves to be is exactly what we're made of. So we are truly made of light. But there's electromagnetic fields. These are densely packaged cells, right? It appears to be solid. So it's this amazing illusion. But the truth is that we truly, truly, truly are scientifically proven to be made of light. So it's so important that we just have these, right? I think it's time. And the reason that I love my training is that I actually got repelled by the woo-woo people. When I was in medical school, there were a bunch of woo-woo DOs, osteopaths, and they would stand on stage and they would tell us all about how amazing they were and, you know, how the miracles just kept on flowing. And they would tell us one success story after another of how they'd place their hands on people. And all of a sudden the person would leap off the table and they had no more pain and the pain went away for the rest of their lives. And, you know, I got really repelled by that. It took me a long time to circle back around into that day when I was sitting face to face with my pain patients in my clinical practice as a traditional pain management specialist with a tool set that was only offering poisons to these patients. You know, until that day when I had a choice, and the choice is, do I let them suffer or do I step into an unknown path? And I had to experience that myself. I had to feel the pain and the devastation of the human condition that was out of solutions until we stepped into the spiritual. And once that happened, once I chose to say, yes, I'm not giving up on this person. I'm not giving up until I know how I can be of service here, because I know I'm here to be of service, right? It's divine. And that's energy. We are guided energetically. We are energetic, and more of us are going to wake up to this. And when we do, boy, it's going to be a rough, rocky ride for those people who've been sitting here saying, that's not science, right? Because what I'm speaking is the truth. And the sooner we recognize that, the sooner we do the healing that we've come here to do. Because every single one of us is actually designed to do our own healing once we step into our own energetic system. And all that's needed is for us to be aware that we are made of energy, and then we can work with it.
So talk about, I mean, I see you as a way shower for helping people self-heal. So talk about some of the tools that you have for people that they can access.
Great. Absolutely great. I want to share a quick story. And this is how I discovered the tools that I teach. So I started to feel, you know, what I'm here to do is to level the playing field, because I've been very privileged by my education. I've been very privileged to have a lot of clinical experience where I've had tremendous osteopathic training. My hands have been highly sensitized by putting my hands on people for 20 years. So I have literally held the heads of my patients for 20 years, listening and letting the information come to me. So I feel so much. I feel the breath of life. I feel the divine in people. And it's the most like breathtaking experience. If you talk to any osteopath who does the work of Jim Jellis, the late Jim Jellis, the biodynamic model, it's exactly what I'm talking about. It's literally your hands are motionless and you're just in the ocean with the patient, and it's love that you're feeling. So when I transitioned into the energetic work, it was actually pretty seamless, because I was already using the lightest, most transparent touch on my patients. It got lighter and lighter as the years went on. And so then when I stepped into the Zoom setting where I was treating patients who were in their own homes, it was exactly the same. I felt exactly the same rhythms, the same. I visualized the patient on a table at first, and then I actually brought that patient into my own field holographically. So that's how I work now.
Right.
So what happened, and the reason that I'm now so passionate about that everybody can now do this is this really cool thing that happened to me. I stepped out to go for a run, and this was August of 2020.
Mhm.
And I was just in an elated mood that day. And I like, it was one of those runs, which never happens, by the way, where I just from the very first step felt like, oh, I can run. My body felt very flowy and light. And normally
Mhm.
I feel like I weigh, 1,000 pounds when I start any kind of run, but this day was different. And so I was like, wow, I could feel my mood elevated as a result of what my body was feeling like. So I started running, and I was kind of bouncier than I was normally in my run. And the next thing, and I'm just happy, blissful, I could feel, and my hands, if any of you are runners out there, your hands kind of, they stay around the level of your heart as you're running. And so what was happening is our heart is the most potent, powerful electromagnetic field in any part of your body. It creates its own electromagnetic field, and that is actually palpable.
Mhm.
Our electromagnetic system, the magnetic part of our electromagnetic field is you can imagine two magnets that have, the negative poles touching, they start to repel one another. And that's what I started to feel. So I was running along, and all of a sudden into my hands, and I was not looking for this at all, but into my hands, I started to feel that my heart field was expanding, because I was really happy about the fact that I was running the way I was. And all of a sudden I could actually feel that my hands were being pushed away from my body. And I was very confused. I didn't know what was going on at first. And then I did, because it was the same exact feeling that I got when I was treating my patients. And so I basically started to kind of play with this. And I like, increased my speed, and my field would start to go away because I was starting to breathe too hard and I was out of my body. And then I found this kind of sweet spot within my run where I was in my zone. I was aligned. I was happy. I was flowing. And my hands were literally being just like lifted and buoyant along my body the whole run. I ran for a long time because I was playing with this. So then my next thought was, okay, I'm now feeling my own field, because I wasn't treating a patient anymore. And so the next thought was, I wonder if I can now treat myself. And so I set on a quest to start feeling every single part of my body. Our bodies have a specific energetic grid or structure, and I teach this in all of the coursework that I offer. And so I went into each one of these energy centers that I happen to work with, and I started to feel the differences in each one of those energy centers. They felt different. Some of them were open, some of them were closed. I mean, literally, my hands were being magnetically drawn in or pushed out. I could feel where a center was not in alignment, and then I could feel where a center was in alignment. And so over the course of time, I started to recognize that just by aligning my hand energy centers to these energy centers inside of my body, I actually had this ability to start moving energy,
Wow.
clearing out things that felt really dense. And so what I didn't tell you is that when I was a kid, I was run over by a car, and I had 40 years of very intense left sacral pain. So I started treating myself every single day without any intention of getting rid of the pain. There wasn't a single healer up until now that had been able to remove this pain from my body. It was something I just kind of lived with. But I don't have it anymore. So I treated
Wow.
myself out of this pain that nobody outside of me could do. So all these revelations came in, which were, okay, we're actually designed to feel our own energetic field. We just don't know how to do that. And I went to the best healers on the planet to help me with this pain that I had in my pelvis. And no one could help. Actually, the late Jim Jellis said to me, you know how to do this, Jess. He was wise beyond his years. I mean, he was not fully human, as none of us are really, but I mean, he was really, really something special. He was just such a spiritual father of mine, and taught me everything that I really know about osteopathy. So when he told me, you're the one, you know how to do this, right? I was at first kind of devastated, because we all want somebody else to do it for us. But the
Right.
truth is not that. That is the myth. That is our programming, that we actually have to put our energy into somebody else for them to heal us. But we have exactly what we need. Putting the ingredients together with the right tools and daily practice, which is key. That's how we do it. It's not an overnight fix. Again, programming, right? We've been programmed that, oh, this isn't working because I've been doing this for a week, a month, a year, and I still have the thing. but it's not that way. This is our new way of being in our bodies. And when we drop the expectation, we surrender into the truth, which is we are energetic beings, and that we are the ones designed to move our own energetic systems back into complete alignment and wholeness. Then we dissolve back into that wholeness when you least expect it. So that's a lot of words, but in a nutshell, I told you I channel a lot of information.
That was the journey, Dr. Jess. It's all good. We want to hear the journey too, because
the journey, it's a big journey.
The piece just beautiful, you know.
Yeah, it's hard to like rein it in, because it's, this information. Good. Oh my gosh, I just want to hand this to everyone on the planet.
Because it's chills. So I think that's what you're here to do.
And that's what I have chills now too. I am here to do that. No question. No question. The only thing that's needed is just the willingness to explore the unknown. That's it. The unknown has everything. We know what's out there. The known is falling away. The known has gotten us sick. The known has gotten us diseased. The known has brought hatred and separation and poverty and all of these things that we're watching, right? It's so tragic. That's the known. That's the known world. But just under that is what I'm talking about.
Right.
It's amazing. And it's now, right? We're here.
Exactly. And I've been feeling like, especially with all this going on, is that, the egg's been cracked. So the unknown is being exposed. So what do people do with it? Do they run, do they believe, they trust, right? Hello, that's what we're here to do.
What do they do with it is exactly what I'm doing. Yeah.
Right.
We pull it in. We pull in the energy. So this is how I see it. So I see energetically. Now, a person has an energetic field that runs through the core of their bodies. That energetic field connects them to the earth, and it connects them into the cosmos, the sky, source. And inside the body, we have these swellings, these outpouchings of energy that feed the plexi of nerves, that feed all the tissues of the body, as I mentioned earlier. And so when we start to work, so when we're in our worlds, for example, we're just wake up, we drink our cup of coffee, we put on our work clothes, we go out into the world, we have conversations with people, we look at the news, we read the newspaper, we check social media, we have our meals, we come home, we take care of our families, we go to bed. Every single part of that life routine, which most people have every single day, is energy moving outside, from the inside out of their bodies. And so thankfully, we're connected to source, and we're connected to earth, and we all are being breathed the same energy. But most people on the planet are so low in their voltage because their energy is not coming back in for the sake of healing, alignment, and the restoration of their whole system. It's all going out. It's going out to every single person that you speak to. And therefore, we are so depleted. We are so exhausted. We are running on empty. And there is one way, there's one solution to all of this. And it is the most simple solution that there is. And that is to know the way that energy works. So that same amount of energy that's coming into the body from source, from earth, and running through the body at that central channel, basically the column that runs through the whole body, as I'm sure you know about, Teresa.
Yeah.
And I'm sure many of your listeners know about. This is replicatable, what I'm talking about. This is scientifically studied. We know how the energetic system in the body works. But what people don't talk about is, how do we direct that energy? Where does that energy go once it comes into the body? Are we constantly hemorrhaging it out into the world? And when we do that, we don't even know where we are in time and space. We lose our keys a million times a day, right? We don't even know how we got from point A to point B. We didn't even notice a single tree on our work commute because we're not in our bodies.
Right.
And to boot, we have dense energies that have been sitting in there just waiting for us the whole time, from past lifetimes, from our childhood, and from the accumulation of all of our life events. So the answer is that we go in. We mindfully and intentionally return the energy. We start to literally, I see this as I say it, take the energy that we're bringing out to the world, those outer five senses, and we go in. And that's exactly what I teach. So how do we do this? We redirect the energy, and there's a lot of ways to do that. Once you start to just set that intention and get into the body, we have to become more mindful with how we are using our energy, because that same energy that's going out into the world and depleting us is the exact same energy that we can redirect into the body to heal us, to process those dense energies, to restore the system to wholeness. And before you know it, you're in your body, and the resting vibration, once we've let go of all those densities that are causing dissonance and dis-ease and these scattering, swirling fields, when our body is chaotic or incoherent because we have this density, we look outside onto the world and all we see is chaos. And so our world becomes one where we are victims to it. And it's so stressful. It is so hard. And so most of the people right now are just looking out into the world and seeing the injustices. That's all that they see. Now, I don't see it that way, because I am inside of my body every single day, and actually pretty much throughout the day. I'm very aware of how I use energy, and I move the dense energy through as soon as it comes in. And I work on the old stores of energy as well. So my work in my own body, as I teach others, is that we have to do both. It's the same way. It's the same thing. And that's why we can't stop, right? We don't stop doing this work. We start this work and it becomes our lifeline. It's our pathway back into self-love. Because once we dissolve these densities, and as we work with the energies on the planet that we're all getting bombarded by, because it's the daily accessing of all these energies, little by little by little, we get returned to the resting vibration that we're made up of, which is love. We're made of love. We're made only of love.
Hey, Dr. Jess,
love,
I love
right?
that.
Right. So then when we look onto the planet, all we see is that. We see the fear, but at the base of the fear, we see that fear is only the absence of love. It's the disconnection. We see all these people running around and we're not angry with them. We have compassion and empathy for them because we see that they don't have the same tools that we do. And so we hold that for them. That's our service work. So we serve ourselves first. This is how we do it. We can't go out onto the planet and offer our services to others until we get to that resting vibration of love within ourselves. And then just as a default, basically as a byproduct, we step out onto the world and we're just oozing love everywhere. I mean, I get this all the time. People are like, what? Why do I feel all tingly and weird when I'm near you, right? Because I have this huge field, and that happens a lot where I go places. They're like, are you doing something to me right now? And I'm like, no.
You're like, I'm just in my body.
I'm just in my heart, I'm just love.
That's right. So how do my listeners access these tools?
Oh, come to my website. So my website has all my offerings. And so, poke around there. The website is drjessbell.com, DOCTOR, jessbell.com, JESSBELL. And so you'll see everything when you go to the website. I do monthly group healing sessions where you get to really feel. It's so important. I can tell you everything that I know about energy, but the most important first step is that we feel it. That's the magic, because our rational linear thinking mind doesn't actually want us to know this stuff, because it's not designed to let us know this stuff. Right. And so we just have to feel it first. And that's why anyone who wants to work with me, I do one-on-one healing sessions. I do longer group programs. I do intensives. I'm also building a whole school called the Centers for Energetic Osteopathy, where I'm taking healers of all modalities in addition to doctors. And I'm teaching them what I've learned over these years so that they can work within their own energetic systems first, which will actually supercharge and completely revolutionize the service that you have to offer your patients and clients going forward. We have to do our own work. And when we start doing our own work, it is astounding what we're capable of doing to help others. So that's the Centers for Energetic Osteopathy. But I have a whole bunch of other stuff for anyone who just wants to get a sense of how they can heal themselves energetically.
Beautifully. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Jess, for coming on today. And I'll have your website in the show notes so my listeners can go there and tap right into all the goodies you have and start rocking that energy body and healing.
Yeah. Oh, what a fun time this was. Thank you, Teresa.
I so appreciate it. So
Yeah.
thanks again, everyone, for listening in to another exciting episode of Enthusiastically Spiritual. And just remember that life is too short to not be enthusiastic about your unique journey.
Beautiful.